The next morning, I travel about 30 minutes north of Antalya to the historic Karain Cave. We wanted to take taxi to this cave, the Karain. Yeah.
It's open, yeah?
Yeah, it's open to the public, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We go to the cave and he can wait for us
Abi
and
Karain
we come
mağarasına
back here.
gidecekler.
Tamam.
Bekleyeceksin orada bunları.
Tamam.
Sonra geri getireceksin.
Tamam. Taksimetreyi açarız. Onunla gider geliriz.
Tamam.
Nerede boynun bükük bir garip görsen, hor görmek kim bilir ne derdi vardır. Nerede boynun bükük bir garip görsen, hor görmek kim bilir ne derdi vardır. O garip halinde ne sırlar gizli, onu bu hallere bir koyan vardır. Belki benim gibi sevdiği vardır. Belki benim gibi sevdiği vardır.
We're a few miles outside of Antalya, at the base of the Taurus Mountains, and we're trying to find the entrance to the Karain Cave. The remains of an old coral reef. Evidence that this area was once covered by a shallow tropical sea. We made it. This is the mouth of the Karain Cave. They're very well known in the archaeological world because it's here that archaeologists have found the earliest evidence of human presence in Anatolia. In the mid-1940s, archaeologists began exploring this cave and excavated several prehistoric artifacts and skeletons. These are now on display at the Antalya Museum. They found evidence of human habitation dating as far back as 250,000 years, and it is said that the cave was continuously inhabited for a 25,000 year period. And to date, this is the only place in Turkey where archaeologists have found evidence of Neanderthals, and the artifacts found in this cave date from the Paleolithic period all the way up until the Iron Age. The cave sits on one of the largest travertine plains on Earth. I also heard there are some spectacular stalactites and stalagmites here, so let's head in there and check it out. Spectacular. If this was in the U.S., a sensitive archaeological site like this, you need to be accompanied by a tour guide, but here you can explore on your own.
It is a lot of poop here. That's what is sticky. That's poop.
They're probably up there. Uh-huh. People have vandalized the cave. I wouldn't plan on coming here, but I'm glad I did. It was well worth it. The final leg of my journey takes me to the mysterious hot springs of Pammukale in the ancient ruins of Hieropolis. I think I have before. Our guide brought us to this local shop and he wants me to try a traditional local yogurt containing a very unusual ingredient, opium. Yeah, different than the yogurt I typically eat, but really good.
Those fields, they are growing sugar beets, lots of corns. They are not considered as a man, before completing your military service. When a girl gets married with a boy, she's being the part of boys' families. The marriages in Turkey is not between only boy and girl. This is
family.
The family. The families are involving, especially in Turkey, between the girl and the mother of son. There is always a big competition. The mothers never likes the girl. In Turkey, can be in a big wedding white dress, but today, like all the world, they are wearing the white. The baby is very important.
This is Turkey's famous Pammukale, and Pammukale is actually Turkish for cotton castle, and local legend says that this bizarre alien landscape are actually mounds of solidified cotton that were left out to dry by a giant. However, geologists will tell you that it's actually travertine limestone that forms rapid precipitation of calcium-rich water at the mouth of hot springs. Dripping slowly down the vast mountainside, mineral-rich waters form and collect in terraces, spilling over cascades of stalactites into milky pools below. The area was used as a spa since the 2nd century AD, when rich or frail Romans would come here simply to relax, heal, or simply to live out their last days. These days it's one of Turkey's most popular tourist destinations, with swarms of scantily clad tourists having replaced the Roman elite. Unfortunately, this has caused serious damage to the site, and it is now forbidden to venture off the artificial walkways and pools. In most other Muslim countries, that would probably be frowned upon. They say you haven't really been to Turkey unless you've been to Pammukale, but honestly this has probably been the most disappointing place of my trip. Probably because I've seen far more spectacular travertine terraces in the States. But there's actually another reason I came to Pammukale which makes the trip worth it, and I'm about to show you.
That's why
are heavily marketed, the spectacular Roman ruins have been largely left out of the spotlight. It's a bit of a shame because they're some of the most spectacular in Turkey, but it's also a good thing because it means they don't get too touristy. Inscriptions found on old marble slabs provide clues to the city's origin. Around 190 BC, Eumenes II of Pergamum established a city here to take advantage of the area's rich mineral springs. But he also regarded Pammukale as a sacred site, as he believed the vapors were associated with Pluto, the god of the underworld. So he named the city Hieropolis, or Holy City. Just like Delphi, the city would have had a temple with a divine oracle and priests who would immerse themselves in the toxic fumes and use them to kill sacrificial animals. When the city was ceded to the Romans in 133 BC, they believed it had been founded by the god Apollo, and soon temples of the Greek god began to pop up all over town. It was during the Roman period that the city really began to grow and prosper, with large numbers of Jews being brought in from Babylon. Then in the year 60, having already been severely ravaged by two massive earthquakes, Emperor Nero decided to redesign the city in a Roman style, adding a library, gymnasium, baths, fountains, and a brand new theater. The town quickly blossomed into a booming metropolis. Then, in the 4th century AD, the Byzantine Emperor Justinian transformed the city once again, turning temples and baths into Christian churches. Then, in the 7th century, the town was devastated by another massive earthquake and invading Persian armies, and this time took much longer to recover. The last people to inhabit the city were Seljuk Turks, who took control of the city in the 12th century. But once again, Mother Nature had other plans. Another massive earthquake devastated the city in 1354, but this time it remained buried in the ground until it was rediscovered by a German archaeologist in 1887. Right behind me are the ruins of the gymnasium. Yes, it's the same kind of gymnasium that you're thinking of, except the name gym actually came from the word for nude, because the boys would actually exercise and swim and work out here naked. Oh, those right there are actually collapsed columns, so you can actually see how they were all built in sections. And they would actually stick a pole in the middle to keep them together. Hieropolis is also home to the largest necropolis in Turkey, with more than 1,200 graves. And the most extensive grave site is the Byzantine-era martyrium, which was built on the site where Philip the Apostle was martyred in the year 80 and is believed to be buried. The city's most famous feature is its spectacular amphitheater. After the original Greek theater was destroyed in an earthquake in 60 AD, Emperor Hadrian had a completely new one built in a typical Roman style. Built in the 2nd century AD, the theater was further modified under Emperor Severus. The theater was able to hold around 15,000 spectators, and based on that information, I can estimate that the population of Hieropolis was around 150,000. And how do I know? I multiplied the capacity of a city's theater by 10 to figure out its population.
In the archaic world, gods were celebrated in many festivals, and they depicted a story related to god worship, and they called this event Bromenas. And the modern drama is originated from this. One of the gods' most celebrated one was Dionysus, the god of wine. He was celebrated 3 times in a year.
Now, the theater was originally used for the performance of Greek tragedies. Then later, under the Roman period, it was converted into a theater for gladiator fights. And unlike in the movies, when you see gladiators fighting against lions and with swords, it's not the only thing they did. They actually had their own specialties. Some fought with swords, some fist fought, some fought with knives, some fought with lances, and there were also water battles. They would fill the stadium with water. Gladiators would fight on boats or on platforms, and they would fill the water with crocodiles, allegedly, but that's kind of just Hollywood and stuff the tour guides like to tell you to make it sound more dramatic, but in reality, gladiators were worth a lot of money, so they actually didn't want to kill them off, and a lot of them were actually slaves trying to gain their freedom. This is the main reason I came to Pammukale, this right here. It's weird that I'm seeing this kind of stuff for the first time in Turkey instead of in Italy, but the Roman Empire was extremely vast. Incredible.
You can learn more about the city's fascinating history by paying a visit to its small museum, which houses a spectacular collection of Greek and Roman art.
Cemilemin gezdi dağlar meşeli imanın Cemilemin gezdi dağlar meşeli imanım Hay düşkün oldum cimlem ben bu derde düşeli Aman düşkün oldum ben cimlemden ayrı düşeli Gaydırıp bak Cemilem nasıl edelim de biz bu işe
Historically speaking, the Turkic people were originally just a bunch of nomadic plainsmen. Although there were a few advanced Stone Age tribes, it was the Greeks who really brought the first advanced civilization to Turkey. But because of historic and political reasons, I feel the Turks often don't give enough credit to the Greeks. That's why I find it even more interesting that they kept all of the original Greek names for places. But even Ataturk, who kicked all the Greeks out of Turkey, valued the importance of their place in Turkish history.
Ne gezersin hayatta Basmada fistan parlakta potin ayakta Basmada fistan parlakta potin ayakta Gaydırıp bak Cemilem nasıl edelim de biz bu işe Nikahımızı kıysın ünnen gelin hocam emişe
I'm about to go for a swim in the region's famous Cleopatra Pool.
This is probably the park's most popular attraction. Now normally during this time of the year, this pool would be packed like a can of sardines, but because of the coronavirus, there's far less people now, which makes this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to experience something truly spectacular. Dr. Jones, I'm about to make you proud. Like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie, this man-made pool was actually a gift from Mark Antony to Cleopatra, once surmounted by a spectacular temple dedicated to Apollo. In the 7th century, a massive earthquake toppled the roof and columns into the pool below. No one ever bothered to rebuild it or clean up the carnage, so the remains of the original temple still rest at the bottom of the pool, providing for one of the most surreal swimming experiences you'll ever have. Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. It was here in Turkey that Julius Caesar uttered those famous words, and no quote is more fitting at this very moment. In the midst of a global health crisis, I was able to defy all odds and travel to one of the most incredible countries on earth. A country that has been on my travel wish list since childhood. So thank you, Turkey, for reopening your doors. And God willing, the world makes it through this, as there are still plenty more fascinating places left to explore.